question by lots, okay? So, you know, it's all luck. So the next question goes to Eric. Eric, many people are concerned about the future of Social Security.
Oh my God.
What specific plans do you have to ensure that Social Security will be there in the for future generations? Again, you saw me.
Okay, this is horrible. 2 minutes. Say, read my book, which Mr. Trumka, by the way, has a lead endorsement of, as does Mr. Sanders, Jim Roosevelt, and Terry O'Neill, the president of NOW, who has said to me, be sure to tell people that you have my go-ahead to say I consider you a national treasure when it comes to Social Security, the president of NOW. She didn't endorse that. She's endorsed over here, or the organization has. The system cannot go broke. As long as there are people working, there's an ongoing stream. The system has worked for many years because we needed it to work. It's a wage insurance system. We have sufficient revenues to meet all benefits through about 2030. Then we're 25 cents short on the dollar. That's a problem. We can address it. We can address it quite easily by raising the Social Security cap, eliminating it, but in stages which protect maybe people who are making a little over the top now, and by counting non-earned income as taxable for Social Security purposes. I would do many other things too. We can afford to increase benefits. And the public agrees with this, by the way. A 50-cent more per year per week for 20 years could provide enough money to increase benefits, to restore student benefits, provide paid family leave within the Social Security Act, not as separate. So we're all in this one act together. And the most remarkable thing is, again, you go outside of Washington, there's bipartisan agreement. Nobody wants to cut Social Security, not Tea Party households, not union households, not to make a comparison, not Republicans, Democrat, not young or old. People are scared. That's because the strategy has been to scare the hell out of people, delegitimize the system, and then let's give the money to Wall Street.
Very good. Next is Colleen.
Thanks. So as somebody who started working, my first day of work was my 16th birthday. So I've been paying into Social Security for the last 23 years. And when they're talking about Social Security, more money going out than coming in, that is the time when I'm going to want to retire. So you can bet that I'm going to stand strong and support keeping Social Security solvent for not only this generation, my generation, but for my son and future generations to come. Both of my parents are currently on Social Security and Medicare, and I see firsthand how these programs have benefited them in their retirement years. So, I mean, my mom lives a block away from me. I go over there very often and see them, and I understand that these programs are so important for our seniors and for those who are disabled. But I also want to add, too, I think we do need to look at the cap and where it stands and what we can do to continue to make Social Security solvent. I think that it's so valuable for this country, and this is something that I will absolutely fight against any policy to privatize it. That is something that I will not stand for, and I will make sure to fight hard that we keep it where it is and keep the system going, because it's a great, great program.
Great. Steve?
Yeah. Well, there are several things we can do to protect it, and we have to do it. Now, you know, I started paying into Social Security at a young age as well. I started working on a horse farm when I was 14. So it's important to me that it be there too. And like Colleen, my mom lives on Social Security. That's her only source of income. My dad's passed away. He didn't have a retirement of any significance at all. So I recognize that it is very important. But what can we do? Well, I agree that we need to raise the cap. And what's meant by that? You have to pay a contribution into Social Security with every paycheck up until you make $118,500. And then you no longer have to contribute. And the logic or theory behind that is if you have to keep paying after that point, you will pay way more in than you'll ever take out. And it's a contribution. These aren't taxes. We're talking about contributions. That cap needs to be raised. It will fix this system. Now, what else can we do? Well, number two, the federal government borrows from Social Security all the time. Do you remember Al Gore talking about putting it in a lockbox? I do. That hasn't been done. The Social Security Administration is full of these pieces of paper that say IOU on them. We need to stop that. That's a problem. And then lastly, you know, we do know that back in 2000, there were 3.4 people working and contributing to Social Security for every person on Social Security. And we know now, today, 16 years later, there are only 2.8 people working for every one person on Social Security. Now, some of that is a matter of demographics, right, with the baby boom and all that. I get that. But it's not all because of that. A lot of it has to do with the fact that we've been shipping our jobs overseas. And for that reason, people have left the workforce. If we bring jobs here, we'll have more people contributing and contributing more money.
Thank you. We got to get to rebuttals. Eric.
Sure. First of all, I want to show you something that's just backed by silly IOUs the federal government has. $5 bill. If anybody thinks it's not worth anything, leave it there. If you think it's worth something, get it. It's backed by the word of the United States government. And I really get tired listening to people on Fox News saying it's a worthless IOU because they're saying the U.S. government will not stand behind its obligations. That's wrong, and that would collapse our economy. What I will say is, and that's sort of the game that a lot of people have picked up who are comfortable with talking about cuts. When I talk about cuts, I mean no raising the retirement age, no change in the COLA. I'm talking about increasing the COLA because, how many of you have family on Social Security? Did they get a COLA increase this year? No. Well, in Washington, they thought that was too much a few years ago. We fought it. I don't just want to defend this system. I've spent a life as a hardworking scholar, activist, building the capacity to keep it going for my kids and my grandchild.
Thank you. Colleen?
I'm all set, thank you.
Steve?
You know, Eric made a good point that there's no cost of living increase. We need to have it tied to something. Now, a lot of folks say it should be tied to the consumer price index. I don't think that's fair to retired folks because their expenses and their economic situation is different than the average American. And there's a new thing called the Consumer Price Index for the elderly. We need to tie it to that. That would be fair and that would be just. I support that idea.
Okay, thank you. The next question.